She sneaks around the world, from Kiev to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on a slowboat to China. Of course, I'm talking about the master criminal, Carmen Sandiego. We know she's good because we always learn about Carmen Sandiego's thefts after the fact, no matter how big the stolen object is. But just how much has she stolen? And how much is it all worth?
Where in the world is
Carmen Sandiego?
In the 1996 PC game, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, Carmen steals 50 different things, each from a different country. So we'll start with that. These things fall into 4 categories. Objects, like artifacts or animals. Locations, like cities or landmarks. Transit or shipping, like roads and rivers. And intangible cultural heritage. To evaluate these as objectively as possible, I decided on a few rules. For objects, the value is usually going to be the price of the object. When I couldn't find a price, I either found similar objects to compare it to, or used the value of the most expensive thing in the same category. For locations, the value is the annual amount of money that location produces. Many locations are tourist attractions, and I calculated the amount of money that location in particular brings in. For transit and shipping routes, the value is generally the amount spent on transporting things through that route annually. For intangible cultural heritage, I calculated how much money Carmen Sandiego could make if she had a monopoly on that tradition. I've arranged these things from least expensive to most expensive, and because Carmen Sandiego is an edutainment game, you're going to learn some things while we're doing this. Number 50. The Abominable Snowman from Nepal. This does not exist, so I'm very impressed that Carmen Sandiego managed to steal it. Still, $0. Coming in at number 49, we have the baton used to lead the Vienna Boys Choir from Austria. These batons are of no particular historical value. They probably have plenty of spares, and most choral directors don't use one at all. Carmen, is this really the best thing you could find to steal in Austria? If you need a replacement baton, it will cost you at most $30. Now at number 48, the King's Siamese Cat from Thailand. $75. That's the price to adopt a Siamese cat. The king probably has several. They're of no particular importance except in their own minds. Now, a monkey-eating eagle from the Philippines. These birds are more properly known as the Philippine eagle. They don't live off monkeys, but you do something stupid once and it follows your entire species forever, you know? They're critically endangered, and if you kill one, or steal one, that's a fine of $2,000. Now at number 46, we have the best coffee from Guatemala. That's Guatemala's Finca El Injerto. It is considered to be one of the best coffees in the world, and it's incredibly expensive. Last year, they sold 35 pounds at auction for $3,850. Now, the steps to the tango from Argentina. Every year, there's a Tango World Cup where dancers compete by dancing to a song of their choice. If Carmen Sandiego stole the steps to the tango, she'd be the only person who could possibly win the prize of 100,000 pesos, or $4,178.62 US. Now, Havana's best cigars from Cuba. These would be the Esplendido, which sells for $660 a box. At that price, those have got to be pretty limited in quantity, so if Carmen got her hands on 10 boxes, that would be a solid $6,600. Well, the Olympic Flame from Greece. In order to steal the flame, you'll have to steal the torch that holds it. Used Olympics torches go for as much as $15,000. We'll throw in the flame for free. The keys to the Tower of London in the UK. Incredibly, it only costs £1 for a ticket to changing of the guards. Around 16,500 tourists see it every year, which means these keys are worth roughly 20,000 USD. The statue of Sir Stamford Raffles from Singapore might have local significance, but a reproduction would only cost us around $45,000. Now, from Canada, the game-winning puck for the first Stanley Cup championship, its whereabouts aren't known. But a collector once offered a $1,000 reward for the puck that won the Stanley Cup for the Chicago Blackhawks, which would have been the most expensive puck sold to date. Now, at number 39, we have K2, the mountain in Pakistan. Now, I know what you're saying. That's a big mountain. How is it only 39? Well, this is objective math, friends. It costs $1,200 for a permit to climb K2, and 164 people climbed it last summer, which means that K2 is worth only about $196,800 per year. Now, the keys from Beethoven's first piano from Germany. We don't actually know where the first piano Beethoven had is, but we can assume it would be worth a lot. Using the rule of the most expensive item in the category, we'll use the price of the most expensive piano ever sold at auction, which went for $1.2 million. Number 37, Gandhi's glasses from India. These once sold at auction for $1.8 million. Next, Hans Christian Andersen's writing desk from Denmark. The Hans Christian Andersen Museum charges 95 krona for admission. That's roughly $14. The zoo in the same city gets 400,000 visitors annually, and if half of those people go to the museum, that's $2.8 million that this desk brings in every year. Now, from New Zealand, she stole all the kiwi birds. These are endangered, but conservation efforts allow you to adopt a bird, paying for its conservation, for 100 New Zealand dollars a year. If you were to adopt all 68,000 kiwi birds in New Zealand, that would cost a meager $4.08 million. Now, at number 34, the gargoyles from Notre Dame Cathedral in France. It would cost roughly $50,000 per gargoyle to sculpt and install replacements, so with 102 gargoyles in the cathedral, that would be $5.1 million of gargoyles. That's a lot of friends for Quasimodo. At number 33, the snow from atop Mount Fuji in Japan. Mount Fuji has 250,000 climbers a year. It costs around $107 to climb Mount Fuji, including permits, transit, restrooms, and food. Assuming that 25% of people won't go to Mount Fuji if there's no snow on it, that's a loss of $6.7 million. The fish from half of Lake Titicaca in Bolivia. Scientists estimate that about 350 tons of fish can be safely fished from Lake Titicaca a year. Carmen Sandiego is a villain, so if we're going to double that. But she's also only taking the fish from half the lake, so we'll have again. Assuming the wholesale price of about $5 for a pound of fish, that's $7 million of fish. The Zaire River Ferry at number 31 in price. The Congo River, formerly known as the Zaire River, connects the capital cities of Kinshasa and Brazzaville. Boat travel costs around $50 per person, so assuming 500 people make the trip per day, ferries make $9.125 million. From Iran, she stole the president's palace's finest rug. Now, the most expensive Persian rug ever sold went for $33 million, and surely the finest rug never sold is just as valuable. The Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. Well, ships sailing past Africa have exactly two options: the Cape of Good Hope or the Suez Canal, which costs $350 per ship. Over 100 ships go through the Cape of Good Hope instead of the Suez Canal, so the value of being able to travel this route is $35 million. At number 28, the Court Stage from Drottningholm Palace in Sweden. This ornate and historic stage contains rare stage machinery, such as a chariot and pole system allowing for quick scene changes, and a flying chair. Building a fully featured stage to match it would cost $40 million. At number 27, the Statue of Liberty's torch in the United States. The statue's torch was replaced with a new torch lined with 24-karat gold leaf as part of a $39 million restoration in 1986. In today's money, that would be $91.23 million. In Cambodia, she stopped by to steal the Silver Pagoda. An incredibly ornate palace, the floor is covered with 5 tons of silver, and the temple is home to a life-size gold Buddha covered in over 2,000 diamonds. Just these two extravagances add up to $33 million, which I assume represents about a third of the total price, making it worth at least $100 million. And number 25, the middle of the Trans-Arabian Pipeline. Currently, the entire pipeline is unfit for transport. Rehabilitating it, which would presumably include replacing the segment Carmen Sandiego stole, would cost $100 million. The Keys to the Forbidden City. Well, that sees 19 million visitors per year, and at a $6 admission price brings in $114 million a year. Coming in at number 23, we have every anchovy from the Black Sea. The total value of Black Sea fisheries is $909 million. Of that, 22% of catches are anchovies, about $200 million. Uluru, formerly known as Ayers Rock. Tourism to this big sandstone monolith in the center of Australia contributes $205 million to the Northern Territory's economy each year. Nairobi International Airport. The airport cost $29 million in 1973, plus an additional $100 million in 2014, which, after adjusting for inflation, adds up to $211.8 million. Now, at number 20, the Ngorongoro crater. This crater, that's the result of volcanic exploding 2 million years ago, attracts at least 650,000 tourists each year, accounting for $334.03 million of revenue. 19. All the goulash from Hungary. I found a recipe online that said goulash costs $3.51 a serving. If the 9.8 million people in Hungary average 10 servings a year, that's $343 million of goulash that's gone. Number 18. Geyser in Iceland. Geyser, the first documented geyser and source of the name, is visited by approximately 830,000 tourists each year, 41.4% of visitors to Iceland. Tourism accounts for $2 billion of Iceland's GDP. Geyser doesn't charge admission, but it's enough of an attraction that I would give it at least $400 million of credit. Number 17, the Khyber Pass in Afghanistan. Currently, it is a perilous pass. It's very steep and only 700 trucks a day go through. The reason this is so high up on the list is because there are plans to build a new expressway at the cost of $480 million. Presumably, with no pass, you'd have to find somewhere else to put that expressway. At 16, every last drop of salsa from Mexico. There's 126.2 million people in New Mexico. Now, they might not all like salsa, but if each person has an average of 4 jars worth a year, that's still $1 billion of salsa. Between this and the goulash, Carmen Sandiego is going to be very well fed. At 15, the dikes in the Netherlands. Now, this is a bit of a problem because these prevent flooding. When the Netherlands flooded in 1953, 400,000 acres flooded. An acre of farmland is worth about $3,160, including the average amount of property on it, which means that a flood would cost $1.264 billion of damage. At number 14, the plans for this year's Carnival in Brazil. This year, Carnival drew almost 2 million tourists to Rio de Janeiro alone. It's worth $1.37 billion of tourist money. Now, at number 13, the bulls from Pamplona in Spain. This is just 6 bulls. The average price of a bull is $4,400, so 6 bulls is worth $26,400. Stop. No. Don't put that number on the screen. 1 million tourists go to the running of the bulls, bringing in $2.057 billion tourist dollars, which plus 26,400 is, $2.057 billion. That controls the Panama Canal. Well, 14,000 ships pass through the Panama Canal each year by paying an average toll of $150,000, totaling $2.1 billion in tolls. Number 11, the Strait of Magellan in Chile. This sees 1,450 cargo ships each year, carrying $5.5 billion in cargo. Now, you might ask why I counted the cargo for this body of water, but not the Panama Canal. You have to make decisions when you're doing this sort of thing. Number 10, the recipe for kimchi from South Korea. You thought salsa and goulash were huge. Kimchi is a $6 billion a year industry. The impact of this theft would more likely be cultural than economic. Many Korean families make their own kimchi, and kimjang, the communal act of making kimchi as a community, has been declared by UNESCO to be an intangible cultural property. Try stealing something tangible next time, Carmen. Alright, we're in the single digits now. Coming in at number 9, the headwaters of the Amazon River in Peru. The Amazon ecosystem has an economic impact of $8.2 billion. Between this and the plans for Carnival, it seems like Carmen has a particular vendetta against Brazil. If I were on the Brazilian national soccer team, I'd be watching my back. Number 8, the island of Bali in Indonesia. Bali's GDP is 252,598 billion rupiah, or 17 billion US dollars. Now, at number 7, the Trans-Siberian Railroad in Russia. This cost an estimated $770 million to build in 1916. Adjusting for inflation, that's $18 billion today. Now, number 6, the entire city of Casablanca in Morocco. That's 32% of Morocco's 118 billion GDP. That's roughly 37 billion. And number 5, the Mekong River in Vietnam. According to The Economist, tens of millions of people rely on the river to survive. The cost of moving and housing these people and providing for their needs would be roughly $5,000 per person per year, which means that even just 10 million people would cost $50 billion. And another river in it, number 4, the Nile River Delta in Egypt. Egypt's agriculture is 11.7% of the country's GDP and is entirely concentrated on the Nile, so it's worth $140.97 billion. The Aswan Dam also generates 10 billion kilowatts per year, kilowatt hours, which is worth another $1 billion, for a total of $141.97 billion. Alright, ready for this? Top 3. Number 3, the Sistine Chapel ceiling. An art appraiser estimated the full chapel would be worth $500 billion. The ceiling is just a part of a pretty big chapel, but it's a significant and culturally important part, so it would probably be worth $200 billion on its own. Now, another river here, the delta of the Niger River in Nigeria. Oil and gas resources of the Niger Delta account for 85% of the country's GDP, which amounts to $380 billion. And now, rolling in at number 1, the one you've all been waiting for. Number 1, the salt from the Dead Sea in Israel. Wow. We've gotten past mountains, cathedrals, and no shortage of massive rocks, and this is the number 1 spot? Well, we're actually underestimating it. There are 37 billion tons of salt in the Dead Sea. The world only produces 259 million tons per year, and Carmen Sandiego is a wily thief, so she's not going to sell more than that to avoid crashing the salt market. At $3 a pound, that's 1.554 trillion, and she still has 36.75 billion tons of salt to sit on. That's more salt than all the Acme detectives that failed to track her down before she made the theft. Now, what can Carmen Sandiego do with all that money? Especially all the salt money. Well, for starters, $20 billion ends homelessness in the US. $26 billion provides basic education to every child in the world. $13.1 billion provides maternal and prenatal care to every single mother and newborn in the developing world. $265 billion ends world hunger. $300 billion restores degraded land to pasture and trees, which buys 20 years to fight global warming. And you could pay off all student loan debt with $1.52 trillion. And you'd still have $150 billion to spare. That's a heck of a lot of money. That's more money than most people will ever see. And that's more money than a lot of countries will ever make in their lives. That's a hell of a lot more money than I'm ever gonna make. Thievery is a pretty lucrative business. Jeez, think of all the impact that Carmen Sandiego could have on the world, both for evil and for good. That's so much power. Could I ever do something that made that much of a difference in the world? Am I doing anything with my life? The most I'm ever gonna make in my life is a small fraction of Carmen Sandiego, the people, the lives she's touched, the lives she could save. I think I might be pursuing the wrong career path. Making videos on the internet is just a small, almost meaningless thing that I think I need to rethink my career. Better go see if I can steal the Grand Canyon.